What's going on, everyone? Zane here with Everything Vive. Happy Friday. Hope you had a fantastic week. I'm here with Ronnie. Ronnie, how you doing, man?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing great. We got another Game Talk episode. And before we do that, let me just put out a little reminder for some administrative stuff, I guess. Wednesday's episode number 47, we wanted to get your guys' feedback on the podcast, the show, the format. I mean, first we wanted to just say thank you for an awesome 2016. It's been fantastic. I can't believe we're almost at 50 episodes at this point. So I guess just as a token of our appreciation, we're giving away a $10 Steam gift card. All you got to do is comment on the YouTube version of episode number 47 and just give us some feedback. We're asking for feedback on the format of the show. If tell us what you like, maybe what you don't necessarily love, and also for any interview requests. If there are developers out there you'd like us to reach out to specifically, so we can have them on the show and just give a more behind the scenes look at the awesome work that they are doing. So with that being said, Ronnie, you ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it. No, I'm excited.
Cool. Well, we got another game talk. I think you have the more exciting game than me. So why don't you give it?
Yeah.
Why don't you start?
Sure. So, yeah, the reason I'm excited actually is because I do think there's a lot to talk about, for the game that I have for today, and that's Sairento VR. And it's a game that, is still in early access, so I definitely want to throw that out there. It's not finished by any means. And after playing it for a while, I can see why people in the Steam reviews and on other online places are kind of saying, this is early, but still, despite the fact that it's early, it's something that certain people are going to have a lot of fun with, and it's still something that could be recommended. And yeah, playing it more so than a lot of the other quote unquote early access titles out there that are more or less kind of finished products, but maybe they're missing modes or this or that, or the developers really. This is definitely early access. So, right away when you start playing it, especially when you get into the early level or some of the later levels, you'll see some slowdown. You'll see some, graphical kind of glitches and stuff caused by that because, things are still being optimized. So, with all of those caveats aside, I think what is in this game shows a lot of promise. Basically, you're a ninja in the game, and it's going to be reminiscent of games like Raw Data, where you have guns and you also have swords. And I mean, especially in these kind of, right now it's kind of a wave shootery, elimination kind of last man standing survival type of game where you're in these environments, basically defending yourself against various ninjas and such. But the difference between this game and a game like Raw Data, for example, is that there's you can already see it right now. The levels are much, much larger. So whereas in a game like Raw Data, sure, you can move around the environment. There's definitely, obstacles to hide behind, to duck for cover and all that sort of thing. In this game, the maps are, even if you've played a game like Smashbox or something, the maps are, a good 2 to 3 times as big as a game like that. And so I think really where it's going to separate itself is going to be in how it handles, traversing that environment. And so far, a lot of the tools that it gives you are actually very, very well done. So the biggest one for me personally would be the jumping mechanic. And basically what the game does is it extends teleportation in a way that allows you to jump as well as dash. So, if you can imagine, again, not to bring too many comparisons, but a game like Raw Data lets you dash. So when you teleport on the ground, you move your cursor, you let go, rather than just disappearing and reappearing, kind of like a blink. It instead kind of darts your character forward, and it kind of blurs the environment. You can still control during that move from point A to point B. And you can kind of, slash or shoot enemies and that sort of thing while you're doing it. This game, definitely allows you to do that. But if you tilt your controller upwards rather than just out, in addition to pushing you further in the map, it also can let you let your character go up an arc, like basically jump from point A to point B instead of just sliding. And the cool thing that allows you to do, especially since one, you really do feel like you're kind of a ninja, kind of jumping around, whatever.
Yeah.
Not sure how if real life ninjas would actually hop around that much, but video game ninjas tend to jump around quite a bit. and so when you're coming down from that jump, it's really satisfying to be able to just like see your enemy down there on the ground and slash at him as you're coming down and take him out that way. And that was, most of the fun I was having with it was kind of, how quickly could I, it wasn't really a challenge of, each of these enemies is difficult and they're going to block my shots and all that kind of stuff. It was more the fun of finding, cool ways to maneuver and get close to someone so that I could just like take them out with my sword from a funny angle. And along those same lines of jumping around and dashing, the game also lets you slow things down and go into bullet time. And when you're doing that, again, that's pretty satisfying when you have, quite a few enemies. So I do think that feature still needs, at least from what I was playing with it, it still needs a little polish. Not to say it doesn't work or anything like that, but I think it kind of tends to pull your focus in on some of the things that I think are not as strong in the game. So like I was saying that the movement mechanics are really cool. The environments and how large they are very cool and all that sort of thing. But at least for me, the actual shooting mechanics still felt a little bit off. And not to say, it's definitely an ambitious title in that you can tell that all of the bullets are being modeled. And, so when you're shooting the guns, it's not just like, registering hits on the other side. There's actual physical bullets and objects that are moving in the environment. So I could imagine that makes it more difficult to get that kind of, satisfying feel to how the game, how the gunplay works. But it just for me, I felt like there were some times where, and it could just be I wasn't very good at it yet, but I just felt like I wasn't hitting things quite as often as I thought I should be, especially with like some of the, like more burst machine gun type weapons. You want to feel like with the sword, for example, I can just kind of swing that, like flail it around and it hits people fine. But then when I take a machine gun out and spray bullets everywhere, it felt like it was kind of a chore to make sure that the guys actually came down sometimes. So that was just a little bit like it just seemed like a kind of a disconnect. And I think in general, like a lot of the games I've played with swords so far, that is a challenge, is making it feel like, on one hand that the clipping and everything, and the when you're hitting the hitboxes on the enemies feel satisfying, like you're actually hitting them, but at the same time it's not overpowered, so that you can't just kind of flip your wrist a little bit and take out every single enemy on the screen that's near you. So, but all that stuff said, it's really definitely coming along. Like it looks like it has tons of potential. And yeah, I guess that's it. But like I said, I did want to premise by saying, right now I do think, $25, you're basically paying not only to have access to the game, but I think you're paying to help the developers continue to push forward on this and make it a really good title. So if you go into it with that mindset, I think it could be worth it. If you go into the mindset of, I'm paying $25 for what the experience that's there right now, you might be a little bit disappointed, not in terms of the fact that there aren't cool things going on in this game, but just the fact that you can definitely tell it's a work in progress. So
Cool. Yeah, I've heard or I've read so much about this game on Reddit, so it's definitely been on my radar. I just was too caught up with trying to catch up with other games, and so I'm glad you're able to get this one and give some feedback on it, because it does sound really cool. And you touched on the mechanics, which seem to be like the highlight of everyone's reviews or everyone's positive comments. And when you were talking and describing it, I feel like it's kind of like a combination of two of the classic games. to the early classic games that came out for VR. When you say raw data and then bullet time, kind of reminds me of Space Pirate Trainer, how
Yeah.
they handle that really well. So for a game that's coming out 6 months or however much after those games have come out, it looks like they've taken the elements of two of the more popular games, combined them, added their own unique movement features with the jump and teleport, and so. Yeah, I don't know. That sounds really exciting. Is there a multiplayer aspect to it as well?
I'm not actually sure. I don't know if you read anything about any of that on Reddit. I didn't like in my time with it. I was mainly focused on just the missions on the main menu, just kind of going from mission to mission. But
Okay,
I'm
no
trying to
worries.
see. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be the case, like you said, with a lot of these early access titles. So it's cool to see that that there's so much potential with this one, because now, I mean, not that other early access titles are bad or anything, but it's just like you were saying. Sometimes other early access titles feel more like finished products, so you kind of know what you're going to get. But with this, if you're paying for the potential, thinking that there's going to be a lot more down the line, and it's already sounds like it's been a very ambitious project for the developers. So
For sure.
so yeah, I mean, it sounds like it'll be one of those games where people who get their Vives or people who get into VR, in the middle of 2017, they're gonna look back and be like, "Oh, this is like one of the games you need to pick up." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like
No,
one of those must-haves. Hopefully, by that
Yeah.
time, if the developers, are able to get the support they need in order to do that.
Exactly. No, you can definitely see that there could be something really special here. So.
Cool. Well, that is Sairento. My game is another local multiplayer game. I was so obsessed with Panoptic a couple weeks back. It just became. It was just a lot of fun to play, especially in like party environments and people, as almost like a social thing, just because of how tense the game can get with kind of the God versus man mode. And so I got Mass Exodus because Panoptic is just a demo. Mass Exodus seems like it's the same basic premise of one big watcher and then like somebody who's an android among other AI androids that are walking around, and you have a goal this time, and it's a little bit more involved. Actually, it's quite a bit more involved than Panoptic was, and I know I'm comparing something to a demo, but I feel like the mechanics here on Mass Exodus are a little bit better because you have the controllers that you can use as hands, whereas in Panoptic, you use the controllers primarily just to trigger the laser beam that shoots out of your eyes. And so with Mass Exodus, you can actually pick people up with your hands. And then on top of that, there are special abilities that both the person in the headset and the person on the computer can use. And I mean, some of those abilities are like, I'll just give an example for each one. So for the person in the headset, you're gigantic looking at all these small androids, and one of those androids is controlled by the human player on the computer. And so one of the things that you can do, if you think, you're kind of looking at an area where he might be, you can freeze all the robots for, I think, 10 to 15 seconds. And yeah, so if you see an android that continues moving, then that's the rogue android is what they call it.
That would have been helpful during Panoptic for me.
Yeah. So, like I said, it adds like a different type of nuance to the game, and so, but again, for the computer player, the person on the computer, as soon as they see everybody freeze, you got to recognize that and make sure you stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then for the person on the computer, each person has 3 abilities. So I'm just going to go into one of them. One of the abilities that the computer player has is being able to blind the person in the headset for, I think, 10 to 15 seconds as well.
That's cool.
So yeah, I mean, that can be used if there's not many tasks left and they're just watching one area. You know what I mean? So
is there the same kind of? Is there a different sense of scale when you're in the VR headset versus the computer, kind of like Panoptic, or not really?
Oh,
Are you
no, no,
guys
yeah.
both on the?
No, it's 100%. Same thing as Panoptic. I guess the same
Okay.
idea where you just have like this. You're gigantic almost, and you have a
Okay.
hand that is bigger than all the little androids running around. So you use that hand to pick them up, and then there's a garbage disposal which you can throw them into.
Oh,
But
interesting.
the trick is, I think the garbage disposal. I forgot how many seconds, but you can throw an android in there, and then you can't throw another one in until like for another either 15, 10, 15, or 20 seconds or something like that. So
Huh.
you can't just like shove everyone that you see in
Sure.
there.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
and
That
so,
sounds really cool. So that sounds like there's a lot of different tactics. If you're not very good at one thing, you might find it kind of a trick that works for you with some of the other.
yep.
And
And for the computer player, it's not just trying to reach one destination. So you are trying to shut down 4 different power generators that are
okay.
located all throughout the map.
Huh.
And
Interesting.
so I believe you start off randomly every single time. But the thing is, like, when you and I were playing Panoptic, there was, like I knew where you were going. And as long as I was like watching that area or you were watching that area, you could kind of just,
Yeah.
you can kind of just wait someone out.
But in that game, that's kind of the key, because I feel like they don't give the person trying to catch the other player enough tools to really, like, you need that kind of. Otherwise, I feel like there's just no way you'd be able to find the person.
No, exactly, and that's what I'm saying. And again, I just want to keep reiterating, we're not bashing on Panoptic because it is just a demo right now, and I know there's a full game going to be released for it. But
Yeah, so it might end up having some other types of
yeah, well, I mean,
features and tools, whatever.
yeah, and hopefully it'll be a different enough game where whatever it brings in the final version will be cool and unique.
Yeah,
But for
yeah.
Mass Exodus, I like how they took a different spin on the genre of this type of game by adding in those like special features, and each person gets 3. The person in the
Okay.
headset and the person. So those were the 2 that just kind of jumped out at me.
Okay. And since it is a full game, are there, like, whereas in Panoptic there was the one main level, but it was just a demo. For this retail version, is there of Mass Exodus? Are there multiple levels? Are there?
I thought there were more, and I only see 1. So I don't know if anybody else has
Okay.
played this game and has figured out if there are others. But there's only 1. Like I said, though, the game, it's different every time because of the way that you can go about the strategy. And I
Okay.
would say the replay value isn't necessarily like with just you and one other person. I think it's really cool for people, again, if you're demoing off the Vive or showing it off to people, it's another cool way for people to have kind of like a social experience with it. And
Sure.
to be fair, I mean, it's a fully released game, but I think I got it for $6 on Steam. 6
Okay.
US dollars. So
Yeah, it looks like it's 9 right now.
oh,
So
you know
I'm
what? You're
actually-
right. Yeah, that I think I got it while it was on Steam sale.
No, that makes sense. But I'm just wondering, yeah, because so based on your experience with the game, I mean, I have my brother's coming into town this weekend, and he's going to be trying the Vive for the first time. He's kind of located far away, and he hasn't been able to come and try it out since I got it last year. So, I mean, is this a game that I should pick up? That, I mean, he hasn't played VR before, but he loves video games, and it sounds like it's a pretty good game to pull out when you have friends over. But
Yeah, so I would say this. I mean, the Panoptic demo is free, so try them out on the Panoptic demo because there's only so many times the same 2 people can play that in the same
Got it.
roles. So and if he likes that, and if he wants a little bit more, you can always offer this and say, hey, I can grab this game. It's under $10. You know what I mean?
okay, yeah. No, that's good advice.
but
I'm
I feel like-
adding it to my wish list right now.
Awesome. Yeah, I would say Panoptic though is the best. Sorry, not the best. As Panoptic is a great way to introduce someone to that type of game.
Yeah.
Just because it's very different, especially in a social setting, it's very different from most other games. Usually when I have people over playing VR, everybody else can kind of watch on the TV. And so this time around, you don't see what's in the headset. I mean, you see what the person is doing. And so, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a different experience, especially in a social setting. Obviously, in a social setting because you need 2 people.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, this is not a 1-player game. You can't play this on your own. Otherwise, you're easily going to win it somehow or the
Yeah.
other.
Well, and I'm looking at it too, and it looks like it has an interesting aesthetic. Like it's very like kind of uh, like
Yeah, it's more futuristic rather than something like Panoptic, which I felt like had a more tribal or older feel to it. There's like
yeah,
fires and the I don't know, just the way
yeah. No,
it
this
was
one
set
is
up.
like very like not post apocalyptic, but it's like it looks very dark, kind of gritty, like
Yeah,
sci-fi
Yes,
robot world.
sci-fi is the probably the perfect way. I mean, because all the people walking around are androids. They're not people, and they're not like little wooden sticks or whatever. Like
Yeah,
they're supposed to be like little robots walking around. So
interesting.
think like I don't know, just any type of robots that you've seen, and that's kind of what they look like in humanoid form.
Yeah, yeah. No, it looks cool. So yeah, I'll keep that in mind. And I think when we're trying out some of these other local multiplayer games that we already have, I'm looking forward to playing some Panoptic, like you said, some Diner Duo, and maybe we can throw this in on there if they're having a blast with some of those games. So
Yep. Yeah, man. But that's all I got for this one. You got anything else?
no, that's it. I mean, yeah, both pretty cool games, I think, and
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I'm
and
excited to get into Sairento. I'll probably, well, I won't give a time frame, but I that's a game that is on my wish list and I have been eyeing. So I'm glad you're able to cover it. And yeah, this is exciting stuff, man. I like all the different like innovations. Like literally I don't want to say every week, but like every month, I feel like we come across a game that just kind of changes the landscape. You know what I mean?
yeah. No, I
Or
mean,
adds something unique. Like it's awesome to see all these indie developers like really just creatively thinking outside the box.
no, I totally agree. Like it's on one hand for someone that's that gets to play with the headset all the time. It's really cool to just have an almost unlimited list of titles to kind of choose from if you want to get something good that week. It's kind of funny I mean, it used to be so easy for me to pick what games I wanted to show people when they were coming over to try the Vive, and now I just looking at my Steam library and trying to figure out like I mean it's not even so much having all these it's more like, well, what type of experience do I start them out with first, like
Yeah.
what, because every person kind of reacts differently, and
Yeah, and now you can make
and
it like you can curate it a little bit more personally and be like, what would this person like? Because you have the different titles.
exactly. It's not as straightforward as, hey, let's just show them the best stuff in VR. Now it's, well, there's a lot of cool stuff in VR. What types of experiences interest you?
Yeah.
So
Well, I feel like in a future episode we'll probably go over what the best stuff in VR is, but leaving that out for now, these are the two games that we're covering. So
yep.
that's all I got. I'm just gonna put a little reminder again at the end of this episode. We are giving away a $10 Steam gift card. So if all you got to do to sign up is we are looking for some feedback on the format of the show and wanted to get some interview request ideas from you guys. So listen to episode number 47 and leave a comment on the YouTube version of that episode. Let us know what you think, and we will draw a name randomly and announce it on Monday. And with that, Ronnie, man, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I hope all
You
the rest
too.
of you guys, thanks, man. I hope the rest of you guys have a fantastic weekend, and we will catch you all next week. Take care and talk soon.